Hey, this is Scott.
And this is Rusty.
We want to tell you about our Patreon page.
We have a couple of tiers to choose from.
No matter which one you choose, circumcision will not be required.
Also, no matter which tier you choose, you will have our begrudging gratitude.
And let's not forget the satisfaction you'll feel supporting two of the great artists of this generation.
In addition, our patrons will have exclusive access to weekly post-show discussions, as well as our latest project, the Libel, the Bible.
A modern interpretation of the Bible as translated and written by us.
Keep an eye out for a free preview of the first 4 chapters of Genesis being released weekly, this month through our regular feed.
Visit us at patreon.com/libelthebible to sign up.
That's patreon.com/libelthebible.
Choose the tier that's right for you. And previously on Libel the Bible,
we christen a new studio.
Rusty attacks our listeners.
Join our Patreon, assholes!
We discuss marijuana dispensaries.
I pay homage to my mother-in-law's faith.
The Israelites are instructed to go full Taliban and destroy ancient temples.
I workshop Moses voices.
And there's a lot to work with because Moses is still talking.
And now, episode 49 of Libel the Bible.
What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I guess I'm Rusty.
What is this?
It's Libel the Bible, I guess. I mean, is it Libel the Bible? Sometimes I forget because it's usually like an hour before we actually start recording.
Yeah.
There's always like something with the equipment.
And we kind of upgraded. We upgraded a little bit.
That's right. We've got a new DAW. What's DAW stand for?
Digital audio
workstation.
Workstation or workplace or workspace or workbench or...
It's the thing our microphones
or
plug
worship.
into.
Yeah.
We got a better one.
Yeah, we did some tests, though. It didn't really sound much better, did it?
I mean, it sounded fine. The problem is the pitch.
Yeah, the volume sounded good, but the pitch has been a problem on both units now, so whatever, man. I think people care about our technical problems.
I don't know. So it's just like, my God, it's like 30 minutes ago, I was like really feeling the show, like I was ready to start the show, and now it's like, the fuck, man. Can't wait to get it over with already.
You want to skip it, man?
Yeah, fuck these people.
What
All
do you
right,
mean?
that's the show.
no, we're not releasing this as the show. I meant start over some other time.
Nah.
Nah. Imagine we just start. We get so fucking big of ourselves. We just start releasing like 10-minute episodes. Not even.
Yeah.
You call the people assholes, tell them to pay, and then fucking.
I mean, listen. Honestly, like people deserve 10-minute episodes. That's all the effort they deserve.
I was thinking about that, man. At what point we probably should talk about this off air. We don't want people looking into getting insight into the way we think, but maybe we should start trying to use the honey approach instead of the vinegar a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been thinking about that?
I've been, yeah. Well, because when I was editing the last episode, editing by, that means it's uploading the shit. Man, it was a little harsh, man. You kind of went after our Patreon, our lack of Patreons pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll start kissing their ass.
No, listen, I didn't say that. You see,
no, it sounds like that's what you want me to do.
Listen, man, there's got to be some middle ground with you, man.
Pretty please, can you go and look up our Patreon, everybody? Please,
let's talk about voices.
Please.
Some of them were a little too booming last time. Well, funny but booming.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, did you notice the new edition? I got like the.
I'm feeling like the person that edits the episodes is the one that gets to criticize the other person. So remember how like I used to give you notes because I used to edit the episodes and hear all like, your flaws and whatnot. So now like you're editing the episodes. So now you're like hearing all of my flaws.
It's possible.
And now like on air, like you're like, I like how you were like, I don't want to give everyone our thinking on air, but here's everything that you need to change about yourself, Rusty.
You know what? That's possible. And you know what? It's turnabout is fair play.
Yeah.
The first 48 episodes are all about you, and maybe the next 48 will be all about me.
Sure.
See, the difference I think between me and you is my flaws are like really small.
There's a lot of differences between you and me.
The
first one is it's you and I.
See? First difference between you and me is I didn't get mad that you interrupted me in my train of thought there. Anyway, did you notice the addition to the studio there?
Is that a microwave? Oh no, it's a wine refrigerator.
It's a wine refrigerator with your water and your glass waiting for you. And it's a what do you call
nice.
it? It's like our kitchen. It's like our office kitchen.
Oh,
right?
very nice. I
With the
didn't
water
notice
cooler.
that.
And I want to point out that little wine refrigerator. Yeah, somebody was throwing it out. My neighbor said, "You want this?" And I was like, "Let me think about it." And before I had a chance to think about it, she literally carried it over here.
So this is why sometimes I have to be tough with the audience. I mean, you're happy with someone's thrown away wine refrigerator, and I'm saying like we need patrons so we can buy a brand new wine refrigerator. You know what I mean?
Yes, and let people
Like
know.
how can we? I don't know any podcaster that podcasts without a state-of-the-art working wine refrigerator in their studio.
Maybe we're expressing problems that we shouldn't be expressing. And it's it's only an 8 wine thing. So it's like you said, it's smaller than your average microwave.
8 bottle.
8 bottles. What did I say? 8 things.
Yeah,
8
you were
things
like,
going in
wait, 8, whatever.
So it's smaller than the average. I don't want people thinking we got like a wine rack down here, like in a climate controlled room. It's just a little thing.
Yeah.
And the table it's sitting on, that was destroyed by Hurricane Sandy. Cleaned it up a little.
I mean, listen, we have like secondhand things that, where we throw things together, but, we're resourceful.
But there is something new here. I want to give it to you, man. I think on account of the new studio, you're feeling kind of bummed out lately, especially tonight. So I'm going to let you unwrap it on air.
Okay.
And I think it should be with us in the studio while we record. So here you go. Open this up. Be careful. It's fragile.
Okay.
It's bubble wrap. That comes off.
Well, I see what it is.
Well, don't read it, man. Don't give it away.
I read it right through the bubble wrap.
I should have put wrapping paper on it. It's the bubble wrap it came on. The store gave it to me.
It's a candle.
Yeah,
It's plain white.
Yeah. It's a devotive candle shape.
I haven't opened it yet, but I could see it through the bubble wrap.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Well, it's more than just a plain white candle.
It's for you.
I'm so glad it's wrapped so tight because this makes for great radio.
Hey,
People love.
Listen, if I didn't do this right now, you'd be sitting there moping, going, "What do you want to talk
People
about?
love
What
to
do you want to
hear
talk about?"
Dead air while
dead
I
air.
struggle
It's bubble wrap.
to open
It's
this.
fucking bubble wrap.
That's taped all tightly.
Is it
So
really? Listen, I didn't fucking tape it. All right. That's
what
the
we're
person
looking
just-
at is
There you go.
we are looking at Taylor Swift, drawn Renaissance style. She's wearing a blue dress with a white flowing neck scarf with one of those sainted halos behind her, like in Renaissance paintings. She's holding a cross in her delicate hand. And what do we call these kinds of candles?
Votive candles.
What are they?
Votive.
Votive?
VOTIVE, like the votive offering.
Very nice. So that's very nice of you, Scott. Thank you for my Taylor Swift candle.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to light her right now. And she's going to be put with us during the recording. Oh, look at that. Look. She's holding a crucifix.
Very nice. I said that.
Or
I
is that
said
just
she's
a
holding a
cross?
cross.
It's a cross, right? It's crucifix only when the thing is
I
on
guess
it.
either way. It's a crucifix, really, because it's denoting the crucifixion. It's representative of the crucifixion.
Look at this. Look at this.
Very nice.
With a girl you like, when you love.
Taylor Swift, my favorite.
So, can I tell you the story about that candle?
Go ahead.
So, when I was up in Maine a couple months ago now, and I was in this gift shop for some strange reason, and I saw this candle, and it was next to other stupid celebrities on votive candles. So I was like, "Ooh, Taylor Swift!"
Yeah.
So I'm online, right, and some girl walks past me, and she sees me holding it, and she goes, "Hey, nice Taylor Swift candle. Where'd you get it?" I was like, "Over there." And she went over and she's like, somebody else, like Blake Shelton or something, I don't know, something. All right. I was like, "It's for a friend." And she's like, "From across the store." "Sure it is."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's good.
So, yeah.
It's a funny little anecdote, Scott.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for the candle.
Yeah, man. It's for the studio, really, but it's
I
more for you.
I understand. Thank you.
You know what I feel like just happened, though?
No.
I feel like someone died here. Like, this is what they put that, like on the street corners.
I don't even know what the point of these is.
I don't know. It's I don't know.
You said votive?
Yeah.
I've never heard that term.
You've heard it in the Bible like 75 times.
I don't pay attention to any of these things.
So, man, you got something to talk about, man? Because it seems like the things I talk about are always heavily criticized.
I don't know. I'm feeling like, I don't know, man. I'm feeling like annoyed. I got to say, like, that's one thing I have to stop doing. I have to stop saying the word like. I'm going to start punching myself every time I say the word like. In that instance, it was acceptable because I'm actually saying the word that I don't want to be saying.
Obviously.
But I need to stop saying it as a comma or as a pause in my thinking because, number one, it makes me sound fucking stupid. I was listening to myself. The amount of likes that I drop are ludicrous. So I have to stop with that.
Have you substituted your so's for likes now? Because you used to say so all the time.
Well, in fairness, that was a lot of the so's were transitions during narration because I used to do a lot of the, not narration, I don't even know how to explain it,
Dialogue
but
or whatever.
the step-by-step parts of the Bible. But now that we're like splitting the duties,
You said like, by the way, while you said that.
so now that we're splitting that task, I don't have to say so anymore as much because I'm not transitioning. But like is definitely something that I found myself. By the way, anybody who's listening right now, go start a podcast. Record like 50 episodes over a year and then go listen back to yourself. Because you think you know how you talk and what you sound like, but you really have no idea what you really talk and sound like until you're listening to yourself all the time. And I gotta say, sometimes like I want to smother myself. Like sometimes I won't listen to our show because I'm just like, oh my God, either like I'm obnoxious or I'm just like, oh my, there are words, I don't know. The vocabulary isn't there. I'm sure you have thought of it.
Smothering you often. But if you're judging yourself on your use of the word like and so and being obnoxious,
No, that's just the jumping off point to all the other like.
plus obnoxious, dude, like 90% of the podcast would be unlistenable to you.
Yeah.
Like if you really use that
It's
criteria all
true.
the time.
It's true.
Yeah, man, it's who you are, man. I have to listen to it all the time,
I know.
and you're wrong. I don't have to listen to the podcast to know how I talk. Because you comment on how I talk constantly.
Yeah.
You're constantly correcting and pointing things out. So I know I'm fully aware.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to point things out about you more often.
Why?
So you're more aware
About what?
about everything you just talked about.
No, but I'm already aware of that.
Oh,
it's just
yeah,
like
you're
now, like it's in my face. Like I'm, I'm confronted with it. But these are all things I know.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know myself.
Yeah.
It's not like I wasn't like a case study in therapy for like a year and a half, going 3 times a week while the guy wrote like a paper on me and presented me to like the Vienna Council of like.
Think fucko got rich off you, man?
I don't know if he got rich off me, but there was definitely something done. So anyway, so you asked me what I wanted to talk about. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. I'm going to try and be more aware of using the word like. And so if you hear it coming out of my mouth, let me know, and I'm going to hit myself in the head.
Wait, you're going to start at the head?
Where should I start?
Well, not in the head. Especially while you're just getting a handle on it, because you
Yeah.
might punch yourself 100 times a night.
So where should I go?
I don't know. Maybe just kind of punch yourself in the shoulder.
Nah, man, that's stupid.
Kind of like Anthony Michael Hall does in Breakfast Club after he writes the paper and he's proud of himself. He kind of
Well, that was more like
yeah, don't do it like that.
I'm not looking to do an attaboy.
All right, man. Maybe we get like a foam thing to hit yourself with at first.
A foam thing.
And if you don't progress and as you get better, we up the weapon a little that you hit yourself with.
Right.
So it's like a board with a rusty nails through it.
Like in a month, I'll be strapped up to like a car battery on my nuts, right? Like Scott's just gonna be like, it'll be like,
Scott's not gonna be anything.
It'll be like the opening of Ghostbusters, where the guy he's like holding the card, and the guy's like totally getting the cards correct, but he doesn't give a fuck, so he's like shocking him anyway.
Yeah, I'm not putting any wet sponges on your nuts.
No, you don't want to do that.
I didn't say I didn't want to. I just said it's not going to happen.
Well, why am I nuts? We could do it like Rambo style. Remember when he was like in that Vietnamese
he was in, like,
prisoner
in
of
a
war
torso
camp?
with it, right?
But the Russians showed up, and it was like the Russian that was doing the torturing.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
You don't remember that?
I remember
you
him
gotta
hanging
watch
like
it.
he was wet. He was hanging up, and they were giving him.
No, that was
business for
another
sure.
scene. He was like in dung, like in pig dung or whatever, and they like lifted him up. He was kind of like on a rack, like in the air, and there were like leeches over him. But then in another scene, he was like in a hut, like up in the trees, and they put him up against like a box spring. You know what a box spring is, but without the fabric, and it's just like the springs. And then like a big Russian came in and like fucking knocked him out. And then like a little Russian came in that was like all crazy looking, and he like started electrocuting him. And Sylvester Stallone was all like, "Arr, this is not great, not great."
What was that like? The
No, I just like saying like, "Oh, that's great, that's great." You know?
You're getting good at this acting thing, man.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. So
That's great.
I got to listen to some more of the Libel the Bible stuff, people. Libel the Bible.
Libel the Bible.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You're comfortable doing that?
Yeah. So we've got 9 episodes are recorded. What's so funny? I don't understand.
I'm just curious, like, if anybody like walking past.
Oh,
your window,
you're setting me up to tell the story. Before we went on air, I was talking to Scott about like we were recording a previously on, and the previously ons are scripted, and so to do it properly, you really have to commit. It's acting, and I was talking to Scott about how it's hard to commit to acting when you're not used to acting, because sometimes you have to say lines and you have to say them in a way it's embarrassing. And then I was telling Scott how I record. Are we okay?
No, I sort of flatlined. I just realized I wasn't talking. That's why I was flatlined. Sorry.
So while I'm recording the show, or not the show, while I'm recording the Libel the Bible episodes in my house, I have an apartment. Sometimes, I have to do a voice, or I have to speak like loudly enough, or read a line that is so ludicrous. Like God talking to Noah about like flooding the planet, or God's conversation with a serpent or a snake, and I have to like do the dialogue. And I realize, like, as I'm doing the dialogue, if someone's in the hallway of my building, like on my floor, they could totally hear what I'm saying, because when I step off the elevator, I hear like people's like televisions. I hear what they're listening to, because it's like a newer building, so it's not like an old construction where the walls are really super thick. So that's fairly embarrassing.
I thought you lived in a pre-war building.
No.
Oh, was your old apartment?
The old building was
Yeah,
pre-war.
right.
This one is not. This one
That thing had
is
fucking like concrete walls.
Yeah, this one is squarely 1960s.
Gotcha. So do you think your neighbors think you're like a religious zealot because they only hear bits and pieces of it?
Oh, my neighbors absolutely do not think I'm a religious zealot. No, they know what I'm about.
Like coming out with your God voice.
Everyone knows what I'm about.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we've been living on that floor now for like over 6 years. You know what I mean? Like, everything's been heard. Everything's been like discussed. Like, I think that's why people are like, in an apartment building, it's different than living on a street with houses, private houses. Private houses, it's almost like people are a little more friendly. Whereas in an apartment building, like, you look at like your neighbor, like you glance at them, you like, you say your pleasantries, hello, hi, but then it's like you're in your apartments, you don't like fraternize with them at all. And I think it's because of that, because you know what they're about. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've heard it, you know it. You don't need to be a part of it. You've smelled their cooking, you've listened to what they're talking, like watching on TV. You know it all. Yeah. You've heard them having sex. One time, me and Amy were waiting for the elevator, and like there's one apartment right next to the elevator. It's a studio apartment. There was like this young lady living there, and like we heard her, like, I don't know if she was having sex or masturbating or whatever, but we heard her like moans and like yeses through the door. So that was like pretty funny. You know what I mean? So like you hear everything. So people do not think, long story, I don't think anyone thinks I'm a religious zealot on my floor.
I was about to cut your mic when you said, people can hear you having sex. Me and Amy were standing by the elevator. I thought you two were going to, like...
Can you believe it, man? They heard us having sex right in the elevator. kind of people are in our building? One time they walked into the elevator.
Like, hello?
Yeah.
What would you do, man, if you walked into somebody in the elevator having sex? Would you get on the elevator?
No,
And just like,
I'd
let
be
him
like,
go?
oh, shit. Sorry, excuse me.
Maybe. Well, you're not that high up. Like, if you're like on the 30th floor,
Yeah.
I think you might like have to walk in and go about your business, but I ain't waiting, man. I ain't fucking taking the stairs.
I mean, it's kind of like there was an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry wanted to break up with one roommate and wanted to start dating the other roommate, and George kind of was like trying to convince him to like do like the hookup. Like he was like, the way you set it up is you tell your current girlfriend that you want a threesome with her roommate, and that's the way like to get her to break up with you. And then like he said it to break up, and she accepted. So now he had like a threesome situation on his hands. So that's a long way of me saying like what Jerry told George was, I'm not an orgy guy. So I would not have gotten on the elevator with two people having sex.
All right. It's a big difference between getting on the elevator and like engaging with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't George?
That would be even weirder. You're saying getting on the elevator and just
I
standing
wasn't saying
there?
get involved. Turn your back on them.
But that's even weirder.
I mean, yeah,
Getting on the elevator, just like going up to the 30th floor while they're doing it. Do you watch?
No,
what do you do?
You don't watch.
You just pretend like nothing's going on.
You don't watch people when they're just on the elevator. So don't watch them while they're having sex on the elevator. You keep your fucking eyes straight ahead like you're supposed to.
All right.
If they're behind you.
So now we're basically like living the lives of animals. Like that's what you're saying. Like we're just like animals at this point.
I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was, it's a bit we tried. We tried to play that bit. Scott came up with a thought experiment. Einstein came up with thought experiments that led to the
just
discovery
conversation, man.
of black holes. Scott comes up with thought experiments that
Black holes. You ever seen one?
Have I ever seen a black hole?
Yeah. Well, actually, we have now. Well,
No, we haven't.
We've seen the
We've seen
outline and the accretion disk.
The accretion disk. The secretion
The
disk.
secretion disk. Yes. Yeah. So, you know what we could use these votive candles for? The victims of the last two fucking mass shootings since we fucking talked, by the way. Just throwing that out there. I don't really want to talk about it.
I gotta tell you, man. So the one that was the really big one, well, I guess the Walmart one was really big. But, the Walmart one is like less big because it's just like regular people. Like there's no identity politics involved in that. It's just like Walmart people. Yeah. But the other one was the Q nightclub, right? Like the gay nightclub.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say gay now, or do you have to say like the whole like alphabet?
Doesn't matter. I don't know.
All right. So
you're not being offensive. If someone gets offended by it, it's not how you're intending it. So fuck them.
What?
If you're saying gay isn't accepted, because it's offensive, you're not meaning it in an offensive way. And
right. Well,
anybody perverts it into a fucking twisted way.
No,
fuck them.
I mean gay is you could still say gay. I was just like I was highlighting how ridiculous like people have. How ridiculous the policing of language has become, where like you have to second guess whether or not like, wait a second, am I allowed to say gay? So anyway, there was a mass shooting at a gay club, and of course, like it became immediately politicized.
Of course,
which was crazy. By the way, by both sides, like both sides politicized it. Like at first, it came out that the guy was non-binary. Right? Or not at first, but like eventually like something dropped. Oh, you hadn't heard that?
I hadn't heard that, no.
All right, so here's the thing. So at some point, there was a report that he was non-binary. So of course, right-wingers jumped on that, right? To say, oh, look, it's like they're the ones doing the shootings.
Right.
And people on the left immediately dismissed it like, oh, this is obviously like fake. It's like a false flag. You know what I mean? The point being, both sides are reactionary. Both sides, like, they're willing, they want to believe what they want to believe, and they're not willing to wait for facts or information to come out. You know what I'm saying? And that's really a big problem.
Yep.
Go ahead, Scott. You talk. I feel like I've been talking too much. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you need to get it out. Well, getting back to the, everybody was disgusted by, the shooting at the Q Club, right? Because, that was a hate crime. But then when I thought about the Walmart thing, they killed Walmart employees. You ever deal with Walmart employees? You know,
But that
they're
guy
hateable.
worked at Walmart.
I know. I'm trying to make a joke that's probably way too soon.
I know it is. Well, first of all, I gotta say,
And I have no problems with Walmart employees.
honestly, we live in New York. Like, how often are we in Walmart anyway? Like,
Do we have any Walmarts?
on Long Island,
Okay. We
there's
got Targets.
There's
We got
none
Targets
in the
here.
city.
We got Targets here. Yeah. I wonder what the hell that's about.
For a long time, Walmart tried to get into New York City, but like unions.
I was gonna say,
prevented
was
them.
that a union issue?
Yeah.
They're like non-union, so they wouldn't allow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Walmart. But I'm sorry about what happened to you.
So that's it. That's what you wanted to discuss about the shootings. You
I
just
didn't
wanted
really
me to
want
rant.
I just want people to fucking understand. Like, we haven't forgotten. We haven't moved on. We haven't fucking. I mean, we have. We're moving on.
From shootings.
Why? In all honesty, in America, why the fuck are we gonna get upset about this?
Well,
Because next week there's gonna be another one.
So that's the thing. So it's like we've reached a level of desensitization, whatever the word is. We've reached that level now where I've reached that level where it's like I only get outraged by certain shootings at this point because I can't be outraged by all the shootings because I'd just be outraged all the time because there's like a mass shooting every day.
Hate based, and I mean, obviously, you're shooting somebody you're full of hate. But when you're targeting a group based on whatever,
Right.
that gets.
It's
me
one thing like
infuriated.
some psychopath, like shoots up like a school building because like they're just a fucking piece of shit, like mentally ill, whatever. It's another thing when like you're targeting like a group because like your head's been filled with nonsense by society. Did you see his dad?
Didn't he fucking like? Wasn't he concerned that his kid was gay or something? Like,
So in that clip, yes, that was like the focus of that clip, but the guy is out of his mind on like meth or whatever.
was he?
So
I
not
only
only
read about it. I
that,
didn't read- I
so
didn't-
he had been on an episode of I don't know, there was like an old what do you call it? Reality show where they confront drug addicts. I forgot what it's called. Maybe Intervention.
Yeah, or something like that.
So there was like a show like that, right? So he was on that show.
No.
Yeah, so he was much younger. So I guess this is like whatever, 15, 20 years ago. He was on the show. He was also a porn star. Well, porn star. I love when they say porn star. You know what I mean? Like,
He videotapes himself having sex.
like, unless you're Jenna Jameson or you know what I mean, like a big name, Tracy Lords. Like those are porn stars. Like when regular people will know who you are. Like if nobody's heard of you except like me, you ain't a star. So, and I'm pretty sure he did gay porn because almost every single man in porn does gay porn to subsidize like their income.
Wait. Are you basing that opinion strictly on that most men in porn do that?
I'm basing it on like articles I've read, documentaries
But
I've seen.
nothing specific about this particular man.
Nothing about this person. I'm not sure if he did gay
Let's just
porn
start
or
that
not.
rumor. You know that kid's father did gay porn all the time.
So yeah, so I guess the point is, I mean, listen, he might be a piece of shit homophobe, but he was obviously like when he gave that interview about his son, like saying at least, I mean, the kid just killed like however many people, and he's concerned that like, his son's at least he's not gay, He was really like off his fucking head on drugs.
Well, isn't it fucking great that we're categorizing the mass shootings now to see which ones we get upset about and which ones we don't? It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's where we are in this country.
And
It's the school, anytime kids get shot up, and like anytime like a group is targeted, that's like fucked up.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers, though. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
So we just had the holidays.
Which holiday? Oh, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving just passed. This is like we're recording on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I had an annual board meeting yesterday where the annual board meeting for my buildings,
So you have a
co-op
Thanksgiving board
is when
meeting?
like all the shareholders are there. We got to present them with the financials. We have to justify like everything we do. Then there's like elections held to see like, if people get voted off the board or not. So I was my usual charming self, cracking up the room here and there.
Do you trust the treasurer?
Yes, I actually do trust the treasurer.
That's the biggest
The
thing.
treasurer is my next door neighbor, Maria.
Oh, and she's heard a lot about you, and she's heard everything you do.
Oh, it's guaranteed. So yeah, so I do trust her. So we had that. We had Thanksgiving. I had my dad over for Thanksgiving. I cooked
Nice.
for Thanksgiving.
used to
Not
cook,
only did I
yeah.
cook, bro, I had planned a 5-course meal, but not at once. So, like, I told my dad to get there at 11. He wound up getting there at 12, but whatever. And then I had, like, things, like, I put out, like, a little something, like, every hour, you know what I mean? So, like, you got, like, filled up, not too much.
Right.
And then, like, so I had, like, a whole thing where I did that. I prepared a lot of good stuff. I made a lobster roll. I made lobster rolls. I had like a charcuterie.
Did you charge like $42 for it?
No, I definitely did not charge that.
Should have.
I made turkey. I butchered the turkey the night before.
That's funny when you said that. Immediately when you said that, I thought that you ruined it. Like when you butcher something, you're usually ruining it. But in this case, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I butchered it the day before, had it sit in its brine. I didn't like it. People like the turkey. I didn't like the turkey.
Did you pour the blood down next to the altar?
Shit, I forgot. Fuck.
When that spaceship crashes.
God damn it. Fuck me. Yeah, by the way, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say turkey's rough. It's hard to cook, and it's
overrated. It's an overrated bird.
I'm not a fan. No.
Yeah, but when you butcher it the night before, it's much easier. It's only like an hour and a half because we had like a 16-pound bird, and it would have taken like 4.5 hours to cook like whole. But like because it's like cut up into like its parts. It didn't take as long. So
I'm okay with a turkey pot pie, honestly, man. And there's been Thanksgivings that's exactly what I've had. One of them Stouffer's pot pies. Yeah. Well,
what'd you do for Thanksgiving this year?
Went to a friend's house.
Who? Oh well, I guess you can't say it on the air.
Yeah. Went to a friend's house.
All right, that's fair. Around the neighborhood?
No, out of the city.
I know where you went. Yeah. Okay, I know where you went. You fucking piece of shit.
Well, you fucking follow me, man. Mind your business.
I know where you fucking went.
I found that tag in the back seat.
What's that?
I found that dog tag in the back seat, that tracking tag.
I'm tracking you. I gotta know. I need to know what you're up to. So, we're doing Deuteronomy, and we're on Deuteronomy 15, and I gotta tell you, man, there's a lot of rehashing of like Leviticus and Exodus bullshit.
Which is why I don't really mind like babbling a lot in the beginning. Because this really is just rehash shit, man.
So Genesis and then Exodus, half of Exodus, right, are like stories. Then at some point, like Exodus becomes just like them hanging out. There's no like action that takes place. It's just like God's like fucking laws and instructions, right? And so like since the middle of Exodus, outside of like several chapters here or there, it's basically just like instructions and laws.
Yep.
By the way, that are nonsense. Like nonsense. Come on.
Hey, listen. If one of our women basketball players goes over there and breaks one of these rules, she's going to have to suffer their punishment. Whether we think their laws are ridiculous or not.
You think she's going to get out for Christmas? Because they just sent her to like Siberia, basically. Yeah.
Oh, she's gonna have a white Christmas, all right? Like 7 feet of white Christmas. Yeah. No, I don't know. I hope she's home. I hope she gets home. I hope. Listen, she's a bargaining chip, right? She's a fucking pawn.
Yeah, she's a pawn.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, look, she chose to do something really stupid, considering the geopolitical situation at the time that she did it.
Agreed.
You know, that was really fucking stupid on her part. And by the way, she was traveling there to play basketball. Okay. It wasn't her first year there. Like she had been playing there for many years in Russia. Yeah, she was playing there for many years. So I'm assuming she had friends, you know, she had people in cities. Like she could have gotten weed there.
Right. I see what you're saying. Like, she got caught in transit? That's what that was about?
At the airport.
Oh, duh. Yeah. That's just a bad move anywhere.
She had like a vape pen.
Allegedly.
I mean, no, she had a vape pen.
Why,
she admits it.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Under duress.
Maybe.
She's probably got the sponges.
Whatever, man. I've seen her. She smokes weed.
All right. Good for her.
But then I assume everybody smokes weed.
Yeah. So that brings us to laws concerning the sabbatical year.
That's Deuteronomy 15.
Deuteronomy 15.
All right, so before we begin, I got to be honest. I read Deuteronomy 15 and I read Deuteronomy 16, and then I started reading Deuteronomy 17. I don't know how focused I was through that part, and I didn't take any notes. So I never even went back. Usually I'll go back and I'll take notes, and this time, like, I really didn't do any of that.
I do the same. I read it once all the way through. I started dozing off. I couldn't get through 17 myself.
Yeah.
But I did end up going back and taking some notes. So
So it's the sabbatical year again, which we covered in Leviticus. That's like every 7th year. You could like everybody's like sins are like basically like wiped clean.
it was rephrased this time, though. He told it a little differently. He said, every 7th year you shall grant a remission of debts, which I found odd. Remit is one of those English words that has multiple meanings and sometimes contradictory meanings. Like when you get a bill, like when you used to get a paper bill in the mail, it would be like, remit this form with your payment. Remit, like your remittance. That meant to pay for it with your money. Whereas it can also mean a downplaying or a pardoning of the debt. You can lower the debt or pardon it completely. Are you looking it up?
I'm looking it up right now.
All right. So I'm not going to wait, though. So basically, in this context, they were saying, you got the answer?
Yeah.
All right, let me hear the definitions. Definitions.
So the first definition is to cancel or refrain from extracting or inflicting. And then in parenthesis, a debt or punishment.
Okay. Let's see
So the excess of the sentence over 12 months was remitted. So to get rid of or to cancel. To cancel is a better way, not get rid of. To stop.
Okay, that's the only definition you have of that?
Definition number 2
Okay.
is to send in payment or as a gift.
Right.
So here's the problem. This is another word like peruse that is now useless. It's a useless word that should never be used in the English language because it has 2 meanings, each one the opposite of itself.
Right.
So if the point of language is for me to express to you what is in my head and have you understand, then this is a stupid fucking word because I would have to explain to you what I
Right.
mean after I say the word. So then why bother saying the word? Why say word when many words will do? You know what I mean? It's the opposite of good fucking language.
But in the case of peruse, and don't look it up now, but I'm pretty sure the definition is actually to like delve deeply into. We use the opposite meaning.
So now now because of that, you will have both those meanings in the
really?
dictionary. Yes.
Oh,
so that's how language works because did you see the text that I sent you? I sent Scott a text. So Merriam-Webster has named gaslighting the word of like the year. So that's like a word now that's in the dictionary. It's going to be in the dictionary. It wasn't in the dictionary like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So words are always added based on like...
You were probably almost single-handedly responsible for that word you use that word all the time, man.
I mean, it's a lot of people are gaslighting.
Yeah, you accused me of gaslighting you a lot.
I mean, people gaslight.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people do it unintentionally.
Then it's not really gaslighting.
The problem is when people do it intentionally.
That's gaslighting. The gaslighting has to have intent behind it, man. Me just like...
It doesn't have to have intent.
Oh, now you're Merriam-Webster?
To be an asshole and to be nefarious, it has to have intent, you know? But people can do it unintentionally.
All right, so he says...
Especially as a defense mechanism.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's like the most common, what you're describing. It's like one of the most common defense mechanisms.
Right, well, it's got a name. Gaslighting.
Isn't it more like an ad hominem attack on...
So anyway,
let's get to the back to the
So
Bible,
the
please.
remittance, which means nothing. So what does it mean? Well, obviously because it's the 7th year, the Sabbath year, the sabbatical year, whatever they call it, because it's that, a remittance probably means you eliminate people's debts. Like if someone owes you money, they don't have to pay you anymore.
Correct. So, which is interesting because he says your community, your people, you remit the debt. But you can still exact the debt from foreigners and strangers. So you're still getting the money from those motherfuckers over there. You're just not taking it from your people.
Right.
You didn't take notes. You want me to keep plowing through this until you have something to say?
Go ahead. No.
All right. I'm going to fast forward all the way to number 6 of Deuteronomy 15, verse 6. When the Lord your God has blessed you as he promised you, you will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. You will rule over many nations, but they will not rule over you. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to bring up something controversial here.
Go ahead.
Isn't this another way of saying you people are going to run the global banking system? No. Isn't that not what he's saying here?
No.
Oh, okay. What is he saying here then?
He's saying that you will never have to borrow money because you will be rich. People will be coming to you to borrow money.
Okay, I mean that's and you don't think 6,000
what's
years
interesting?
later?
By the way, you know what's interesting? So as you bring that conversation up, right? So Scott's obviously referring to like everything that's in the news now. So when he says, when the Lord your God has blessed you, as he has promised, you will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the whole trope of like, right. Jews like running the banking system. So here's ultimately the problem. So we had a conversation about this, and it wound up being in a goddamn fucking show or an episode that got lost. We had a very long discussion. I talked to Scott about like some of the prejudices that I experienced like growing up, some of the subtle
that was the episode that got lost?
Yeah. So that was like some of the microaggressions that I experienced. And I talked to Scott about how, in my view, in my opinion, anti-Semitism is really one of the last acceptable forms of like racism that's still around today. And it was proven with what happened with starting with Kanye West, followed by Kyrie, and then it was underlined by Dave Chappelle's monologue on SNL. So I don't know if you saw Dave Chappelle's monologue on SNL.
I heard the sound bites.
So first of all, he did things that if I, as a white man, did the same thing and just reversed it and used black people, I would have gotten fucking fired immediately. He said this. He was like, I grew up around Jews or Jewish people, and I have a lot of Jewish friends. And then after he said that,
qualifies him.
He started talking about all these tropes, okay? But here's the ultimate thing, though, Scott. Here's what I want you to understand. I don't know if Hollywood is run by Jews, right? So first of all, I don't know how to quantify that, okay? I don't know how to quantify that. Like, I don't know what the percentage of like studios and or agents, I don't know what the percentages are, okay? But let's say that the majority of influence in entertainment comes from Jewish people. Let's say.
Okay.
The problem isn't the fact that it's being pointed out. The problem is it's being pointed out usually in a conversation where people are expressing their like grievances. You understand?
Right.
So the
absolutely.
point being like, it's not that like Jews are running Hollywood. It's that because Jews are running Hollywood,
right,
and then like fill in whatever racist fucking bullshit is about to follow.
Right.
You understand?
I understand.
That is the problem, right? So I can't sit here and then like Dave Chappelle was like, oh, like Jews are the only ones you're not allowed to like talk about. And I was like, what? What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Yo, I can start listing for you white guys that went on TV that were like trying to explain why black men are so dominant in athletics, and like that whole list of guys that got fucking fired like a second later, Al Campanas, Jimmy the Greek, like just we can go down the list of like a coach who started talking about quick twitch muscles and like certain athletes, It's like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So in this particular case, when the Lord your God has blessed you, as he has promised you, you will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. He's not talking about them becoming money lenders and Shylocks.
Okay.
He's talking about like them ruling over people. He's talking about the promise of Israel. By the way, the only reason they became money lenders is because after the European kingdoms had been established under the Catholic Church, money was seen as, remember like that Jesus saying, a rich man has as great a chance of getting into fucking heaven as a camel through the eye of a needle, right? So money was seen as like unholy. So only like Jews were allowed to like control money. So they became the bankers because of that. So to answer your question, this is not predicting that. This is predicting a great nation.
Okay, so I put ugly trope on my notes.
Right.
But this being said, so you take this, what this being said here, money was seen as unholy and dirty, so only the Jews handled the money. And now, fast forward 6,000 years later, so I'm going to ask you again. Is it not possible, without the racist follow-up, that someone can say, I don't know if it's fact, but can say with some sort of conviction that, yes, the global banking system has a unbalanced Jewish influence. How do I say this? But not, oh, I can't get money because the Jews won't give it to me. The same as your Hollywood analogy. You can say Hollywood is disproportionately run by Jewish people and just leave it there. It's when you start making it, because that could be possible.
Okay. Listen to this, okay?
I'm just using a Hollywood analogy.
So last week, I'm standing like on the subway platform, and these three fucking black guys. All right, you heard the way I said that?
I did.
Okay, now I'm gonna say it again. So I'm standing on the fucking platform last week, and these three fucking black guys. You hear the difference in how I said three fucking black guys?
I heard it.
Okay. You could say, like it seems like the Jews have like a disproportionate amount of influence in the banking system, right? Or you could say, it seems like the Jews have a disproportionate. So it's the context of the conversation. It's the reason for saying certain things. You know what I'm saying? So yes, of course, like you are allowed to point out facts if they're facts.
Right. I'm not saying this is a fact.
We don't even know because honestly, like these are just like tropes that have been repeated. So we would have to identify which are the financial institutions. And then we would have to see like who's running them. And what does that mean? Are we talking about board members? Are we talking about CEOs? Like what are we talking about? You know what I mean?
None of those people, man. We're talking about the secret dark smoky rooms.
So it's hard for me to believe that people who are less than 1% of the world's population run the banking and media empires that control the fucking money and messaging that's being put out into the world. Even if there's a disproportionate amount of CEOs in Hollywood, let's say, even if there is a disproportionate amount, it's because Jews weren't allowed to do fucking anything.
I know.
Ever. They couldn't work on Wall Street. They couldn't work anywhere. And so what they did was they were like, hey, let's move out to this nothing desert where there's no water even, and let's start making like movies. Let's start entertaining people. And they did. You know what I mean? And they became successful. It became family businesses. It's the only family businesses that people fucking complain about. Like, these goddamn fucking Jews, they run Hollywood.
Well done, man. Well done.
By the way, Disney, Walt Disney, a known anti-Semite, like a Nazi, I'm not going to say collaborator, but sympathizer.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay? The Disney company right now they own everything. They own ABC, ESPN, who knows how many like magazines are under that umbrella, who knows like the movies, like the Disney movie studios. I mean, like every superhero movie is owned by Disney, you know what I mean? They are a mega empire, right? That was started by an anti-Semite. They're like huge, you know? They control the narrative too, by the way.
So what you're saying is the Jewish takeover of Hollywood is a win, a comeback story.
Yes.
Moving on. Good.
I don't know. I'm just, again, it's a shame that episode where we talked about this is lost because I do have feelings about it. I know, look, I'm not Jewish because I'm an atheist, but I'm Jewish when shit like this comes up.
You're Jewish to anyone who doesn't know you.
Because Hitler would throw me in the oven just like any Hasidic Jew. You know what I mean? Like and if we were driving through the South and the KKK, like it doesn't matter what I say. You know what I mean? It's how I was born. So I get worked up about this. And again, I'm perceived in the world as a cisgendered, hetero, white male. That's how the world sees me, right? I'm a cisgendered, hetero, white male. But I'm not. Like, I'm cisgendered, and I'm hetero, and I guess I'm white, but am I white, first of all? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You're white when it's convenient for you.
Secondly, when we talk about like privilege, right? I'm an immigrant. I wasn't born. My family had nothing to do with anything that happened in the United States of America. And we moved here from the Soviet Union as Jews that were being like evicted, like dogs, we couldn't even bring anything with us. We moved here during a time where communism was not popular in America. We were coming from the Soviet Union.
How the tide has shifted.
And by the way, believe it or not, Jews weren't that popular either.
No.
Yeah, it's true. So we came here as Soviet Jews, right? So I would hardly consider that coming from privilege, right? But the perception is because I am white looking, I am white for all intents and purposes, that I have privilege, And so whenever I talk about racism against Jews or whatever, like some people have like a default position of like, they start arguing with me. And it's like, bro, you wouldn't argue with maybe you would have like 20 years ago. Maybe like 20 years ago when like you would have a conversation with like a black guy or whatever. Like there would be a back and forth and argument. But we've learned so much over the course of those 20 years because we've had so many of these dialogues. Certain things are now accepted. You know what I mean? Between like white people and black people in terms of like white acceptance of like the very real struggles that were faced by black people in this country long after slavery ended. You know what I mean? And so I feel like now we have to reconcile the same conversations with Jews. The problem is, like with black people, there are those who will play the race card, and that sort of diminishes the message. So like if you speak out against Israel, right, there are entire groups that are devoted to calling you an anti-Semite.
Of course, yeah.
Right. So that's a huge problem. So that like delegitimizes real claims of anti-Semitism.
Right.
So that's also a problem. But again, for the audience listening, I know some of you are probably anti-Semites because a lot of people are fucking anti-Semites. And you might say I'm not an anti-Semite, but you hold like fucked up like views about like Jewish people. And I'm not saying you're an anti-Semite in a way where I'm pointing my finger at you and saying like I condemn you to hell and I don't want to know you. Because like almost everyone that I've ever known on some level was an anti-Semite. It's not their fault. Like people grow up around like certain beliefs and it's just fucking implanted.
I gotta interrupt you, man.
Go ahead.
I think very few of our audience would probably be classified as anti-Semites.
Okay.
I don't want you to confuse
it's possible
anti-Semitism with ignorance. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like people might have been brought up to say
fair.
like the
That's
Jews
fair.
run Hollywood.
That's fair.
They might accept that as fact.
That's
that doesn't
fair.
make them an anti-Semite. Makes them ignorant. Makes them ignorant.
Okay, that's fair. I guess that's semantics, maybe.
No, it's more than
I don't know.
semantics. I mean, calling somebody anti-Semite, well, if we can't downplay anti-Semitism, we also cannot throw the word around loosely. Like how long? Like the last
I guess
couple
there's
years,
a spectrum of
everybody's a fucking racist.
I guess
all of a sudden.
there's a spectrum of anti-Semitism.
I think it's a very harsh word,
Yeah.
and I think it should be reserved. You might say, that's kind of anti-Semitic thinking or anti-Semitic behavior, but to come out and say you're an anti-Semite, those are fighting words, and that's you're gonna get back somebody into a corner. They're gonna be mad. They're gonna if they're not, and they have a right to be.
So this is exactly the kinds of conversations that I'm saying are necessary to be had because these are the kinds of conversations that we've had with the black population, and we have now accepted when they say something is racist, for the most part, it's probably racist.
Sure.
But we still haven't accepted when someone says this is anti-Semitic, we still haven't accepted that it's anti-Semitic. We're still getting like feedback like, whoa, 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 that's a very strong word.
Whoa, you're downplaying what I'm saying then.
Them's fighting words. So that is the exact same conversation that we had with African Americans 30 years ago.
Well, what I'm saying, you kind of just downplayed what I said. You kind of dismissed what I just said.
Maybe.
Because you said there are certain people that will play the race card now,
Yes.
and it's not true, it's not authentic,
Yes.
and it cheapens
Yes.
the discussions.
Yes.
And I want to be careful that we don't go down that same road by being quick to judge somebody as an anti-Semite,
Right.
like without really getting into, like, I'm not dismissing what you're saying is like, that might be anti-Semitic behavior, but to just come out and call somebody an anti-Semite is dangerous. And we've been down this road, like you said, with populations of color. We've been down this road. Are we going to make? We're probably going to make the same mistakes again, right? We're going to make them with every freaking problem we have. That's how we grow.
I guess the difference is in the perception. Like, what do you perceive to be the amount of like crying wolf scenarios versus what I perceive to be like crying wolf?
Oh no,
You know
no,
what I mean?
I'm not putting a quantity on any of them.
Right.
A percentage
Like,
on any
so
of them.
for
I just wanna
example-
say, let's just be careful.
So let's use Roger Waters as an example, right?
That anti-Semite son of a.
So Roger Waters, when I went to see him the last time, I didn't go see him on this tour. I went to see him during the Us and Them tour. That was the last time I saw him.
I saw
Us
him on
and
that
Them.
tour also. I
Yes.
saw him on this last tour also.
So he was embroiled in the middle of like a controversy over Israel because he had reached out to like Tom York of Radiohead. He was asking Tom York, don't play Israel because Israel is an apartheid state. Like their treatment of Palestinians is akin to apartheid. So he wants to, it's called boycott, divest. I forget, it's like an acronym, right? The boycott, divest, and whatever movement. And so he's labeled an anti-Semite as a result of that. Now, obviously, anti-Semitism, I don't know whether or not he is an anti-Semite or not, but that does not make him an anti-Semite. That makes him someone who is, you know, someone in favor of human rights.
Or opposed to Israeli state policy.
Right. So someone like that, to call him an anti-Semite, that is obviously ridiculous, right? And that's obvious that that's ridiculous, and he didn't suffer for it. Like, he's still in the media, he's still doing interviews. What?
He didn't suffer like I would suffer. If I spoke out about Israeli state policy, I wouldn't be able to get a job if that got public. I don't have $1 million, $1 billion safety net.
Right.
I cannot express those things.
Right.
So he didn't suffer not because people didn't believe he was an anti-Semite. He didn't suffer because he's beyond that level of suffering.
No, I disagree. Louis C.K. suffered. He lost his show. Nobody wants to do business with him. And, you know, people look at him differently now.
Wait. Was he an anti-Semite?
No, no, you don't know what happened with Louis
No,
C.K.?
really,
I
no.
just brought it up because I assumed like you knew.
know.
During the whole like Me Too situation, Louis
Oh.
C.K. would like jerk off. Like he would whip out his cock like while he was meeting with like a business meeting with a woman and just be like, I'm just going to jerk off. Do you mind?
How does that play into the anti-Semite part?
It's about cancellation. So you're...
I think we're talking about something different.
We're not. So follow along. I'm gonna step you through this. You ready?
Okay, sure. Here's my hand.
Okay. I said Roger Waters didn't suffer. You said he didn't suffer in the way I would have suffered. I would have suffered like because my livelihood, this, that. But Roger Waters is at a status where like financially you can't like. And I'm using Louis C.K. not as a comparison to anti-Semitism. He did something fucked up that that society deemed fucked up, and he suffered. He got canceled. He's only now working his way back. My point is, if society had deemed what Roger Waters did really bad, the tour would have been like fucking arenas would have backed out from him. They would not have wanted to face the backlash.
I got you.
So what I'm saying is, when an organization like AIPAC, like claims anti-Semitism, they're the leading like fucking organization that gives money to like Congress people, senators in order to fucking support Israel. Okay, it's like the number one Jew lobbying group like in the world, probably AIPAC. So when AIPAC like claims someone is like anti-Semitic, everyone knows like what's going on. You know what I mean? It's just like words at that point. So yes, so when you talk about, so the whole point being like, yes, when you point out that we need to be careful, I think we're already for the most part like careful and recognize as evidenced by people who are anti-Semitic not suffering consequences unless it's like obviously anti-Semitic. Like
I got you.
Mel Gibson went on like an anti-Semitic fucking rant at like a cop and he paid the price. Kanye went on many anti-Semitic rants before anyone did anything about it. And that's because also that's a double standard and racist because he's black. If he was a white guy popping off shit about like Jewish people, he would have been canceled like immediately. But black people get like leeway at this point, okay? Now, I'm not saying whether that's right. I'm not saying whether that's wrong. I'm saying that's the time. We are living in a time now where black people, Asian people, gay people, it's their time. It's their turn, okay? So there's certain groups of people that have to take back seats to that. And so he was given runway to say a lot of fucking fucked up shit. He got fucking thrown out. Kyrie got thrown out by proxy because he got like caught up like in the whole, you know, because he liked something that was like also ignorant, you know what I mean?
Poor Kyrie.
And then Dave Chappelle came in and he had time to think about it. He wrote a fucking monologue and he chose to be fucking like really anti-Semitic in it. So I'm saying right now, not as AIPAC, not as like him. I'm saying he said fucking anti-Semitic shit. And if you're sitting in the audience right now and you're not Jewish and you watched and listened to Dave Chappelle and you didn't know whether or not it was anti-Semitic or you think it wasn't anti-Semitic, I am telling you he said anti-Semitic shit. And again, it's not that you point out who runs Hollywood or this or that. It's why are you pointing it out? What is the implication of you pointing it out?
I think we get it. And all I'm just saying is let's be careful. Let's not besmirch people that maybe don't need to be besmirched. Let's don't slap people that are trying to have a conversation and maybe don't have the vocabulary, don't have the life experience, and don't have the words like to express what they're saying. And let's give a chance for the conversation to happen.
I understand. But why does that have to be the last word?
That doesn't have to be the last word. You've had a lot of words, man.
I know.
You've had a lot of words.
And I'm willing to hear all the words you're saying. I'm not being combative. I'm just
I feel your retorts.
I'm just genuinely asking, why do you feel like like you've said it. You've expressed like the fact that like why does that have to be emphasized again? I'll tell you why I bring it up. To me, it sounds like a persecution complex. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't have that persecution complex.
Right.
I don't have that complex at all. I'm standing up for those who do get persecuted, man.
So that was a
goofy
So
response.
I would say incidents of anti-Semitism far exceed incidents of false accusations of anti-Semitism.
I am not taking that away from you. And yes, let's end on that.
Right.
Let's not forget some people were accused on
But ultimately, I think these conversations need to be had.
Yes,
and they need
please
to be,
have them.
And they need to be had in the open. And people need to be able to say fucking stupid shit.
without being canceled.
Right.
Because you're never going
Right.
to educate someone by canceling them.
So look, so when I said like black people are given runway now, right? That's how I feel. Like, I don't know, like you could like argue, oh, they're not, you know, and I can argue they are, and then we can discuss why I perceive that and why you don't perceive that. You know what I'm saying? My perception, but the conversation has to be had. And you know how I know the conversation has to be had, Scott? Because I have black friends.
Oh,
all right?
really? Do
Yeah,
you?
no, really.
Yeah.
I have
Not the fucking ones on the fucking subway
and
platform,
I got to tell you
right?
something. I have had friends of color my entire life.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, growing up in New York, it's just, right, you're around everyone, okay? Now, why I haven't chosen any of them as my lifelong closest friends, that's a whole other story.
I know why.
No. So anyway, so I have had people of color as friends my whole life. And one of the things that I have appreciated the most are those conversations that we've had.
Sure.
You know, where talking about race isn't taboo. You know, like in those circles where people are like, I don't see color. And it's like, get the fuck out of
Well,
my
go to a
face.
fucking doctor if you don't see color.
Yeah, really. You know? And we have had honest conversations about race. You've had the same experience, right? Especially in your job, you're around a lot of people of color, and you guys hung out, and you had drinks, and you had dinners, and you fucking did all these things, right? And you had all these conversations.
Yeah, sure.
And there was never a problem. Maybe sometimes things might have gotten
tempers flared sometimes.
heated,
yeah.
right? As they would in any fucking debate,
Sure,
right?
of course, yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you walked away with an understanding, they walked away with an understanding, and like, people evolved.
Yeah. And if they didn't, we're probably not talking anymore. No, I mean that. I mean, some people are only going to
Some
evolve
people
to a certain
can.
point.
Some people cannot, right? Some people, right? So the point is, if you're having
Why do you laugh hardest at my non-jokes?
if you're having conversations with in good faith,
Yeah.
that's like the most important thing. So again, you could be an anti-Semite, but as long as like you recognize like the parts of you that have been like programmed to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna close it by saying this. This is what you non-patrons are missing out on, because this is really like a Patreon discussion, not so much a Bible study conversation.
Yeah, we had that in the Patreon too. So I just wanted to bring that up since Scott asked the question about Deuteronomy 15 verse 6.
When God said, "You will run the global banking industry." All right. Let's move on.
I mean, listen, our podcast description does say, like, you know, that we talk about like culture and society, and this has been a hot topic in culture and society.
Not if you don't turn on the news.
Yeah.
We'll leave your house.
That's one way to live.
We'll go to
I
work.
guess. Yeah.
We'll really do anything.
Right. Or have thoughts in your head. You fucking anti-Semites. You know what goes on in there.
Yeah, you look around your house, you're living in squalor, and, you know, you might be blaming people.
Yeah. So that gets us to the next section where, what is the next section?
Fuck are we reading? Deuteronomy. 7, blah, blah, blah. If there's among you any in need, a member of your community in any towns within the land, yeah, man. This is good. Do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards your needy neighbor. You should rather open your hand, willingly lend enough to meet the need, whatever it may be. Be careful that you do not entertain a mean thought, thinking the seventh year, the year of remission is near, which basically means they're going to have no fucking debt anymore. So what I didn't understand was, you give me money, like you give me $1,000 in year 1, and I just keep ducking you for 6 years. And year 7, like, I don't have to pay you back anymore.
These laws are like a lawyer's dreams because there's so many goddamn loopholes in them and like scenarios that you can present, like the one you just did. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many ways of evading or talking your way out of, or
like, why would you ever fucking like pay a debt back? I mean, you should pay a debt back because it's the right thing to do, and when you get the money, you should pay your debts back. But I don't know, it's a little weird.
It's almost like they're not really like these like things aren't thought through.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to play out in like any stories of like somebody not paying their debt because like, oh, see me in 6 years. Oh, I don't have a debt anymore. Sorry. Or maybe you always have to pay the principal. Maybe they get rid of the VIG, like on the 7th year. You know.
No, but the VIG's like where you make the money.
I understand it. That's what you got to give up. Like you get the VIG for up to the 7th year.
Yeah.
And then you just got to take the principal.
I don't know. It seems like the 7th year, like all fucking debts, like wiped clean.
It's sort of like at sunset. Like no matter how
So
dirty you
weird.
get, like I don't know how many diseases you have, sunset, you're golden.
It's so weird. So this is every 7 years this goes on. That sounds like nonsense to me.
Yeah.
So like I can like accrue debt over like the course of 7 years, then you think, all right, look, let's say I take you for like 150 shekels or 100 and like whatever that is. Whatever a decent amount of shekels is back then, right? For like a year, maybe 2, I can like talk my way out of like paying you, right? Then you get pissed off, right? Now you're coming after me. I can fucking split town for like 3-4 years, find another wife somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
There's no internet.
Then come back, like at the end of the 6th year, come back to town and be like, oh, what's up? You know, like my dad give you like $10 or 10 shekels and be like, yeah, next week I'll pay you. Oh, shit, next week's the sabbatical year? Oh, you know what I mean?
Wouldn't it be an interesting rewrite of listen, if the Jewish people really ran Hollywood, when Greedo got Han Solo in the cantina, it was like, I'm coming to get to debt. Instead of Han shooting him, he can be like, when he's like, I've been waiting a long time for this, he can be like, oh, I bet you have. It's the 7th year. Fuck your debt. Nobody had to get shot. Han and Greedo both walk away.
You ever hear Harrison Ford being asked, like, who shot first, like in the original take? You ever hear that? Some guy, like, interviewer, like, walks up to him. I forgot where he was. I don't know if he was doing, like, a press junket, you know, where they sit, like, in the room and they just have different reporters come in, or if he was walking a red carpet. But I remember distinctly, they were like, who shot, like, first, like, Greedo or Han? And Harrison was just like, I don't care.
Okay.
You just
Get
like,
out of here, nerd.
I don't care.
All right, what else we got here? Provide for him liberally. Oh, I'm sorry. You ready to move on?
Slaves. We're on slaves now, right?
Yeah, so he's basically saying, if a member of your community, whether a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and works for you
in
6
the Sabbath
years,
year, like you give up your slave.
Yeah.
You can you got to set him free. So it's kind of like
Well, this was
indentured
different.
servitude.
This was different. It wasn't like he came to you in the 4th year, so he's only with you for 3 years. It seems like when you get the slave, that's when the clock starts. 7 years from that time, you got to let them free.
Okay.
So it's not like they show up in the 6th
So
year.
it's like
and
indentured servitude,
Right.
basically, 7
Right.
years.
Provide for him liberally out of your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress, thus giving to him some of the bounty with which the Lord your God has blessed you. So he's like, when your slave is time to go free, don't just send him packing. Give him some shit. He fucking did right by you. Give him some shit. Which brings me to 40 acres and a mule. At minimum, fucking do it. Like, can we get into reparations with this? Like, what happens if they didn't do this? Do you think a couple hundred years later, maybe they should make good on it? Or you think they fucking listen to this and they sent them with some goods when they
Say
left?
this again?
When they leave after 7 years.
Yeah.
They say, give him shit to go with.
Yeah.
Set him up.
Right.
Like 40 acres and a mule or whatever.
Yep.
And I'm like, do you think there's a lot of people that didn't do that?
Absolutely.
So do you think it's fair that 100 years after the fact, we can have the conversation that maybe these people owe these people something?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one, and we don't have the time for that
I
conversation.
gotta say, it's a tough one.
We can bring it up. We can bring it up again.
It's a tough one.
Maybe that could be the Patreon. Unless you're gonna, can you put it in a peanut shell?
What would be reparations? Like, what would be
Listen, I don't
equitable
know.
to give to African Americans?
I don't know, man. How do you give back history?
Like,
How do you give
what
back?
is equitable?
I don't know. What I do know is not the answer. Not to have the conversation about it.
Right.
Don't be just dismissing it like fucking this fucking.
No,
government-
you got to support reparations, man. If you
fucking-
don't support reparations, you're a fucking piece of shit racist.
Okay, that's your fucking opinion. That's why nobody's taking you seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying this.
oh no, they're being taken seriously in their Twitter Spaces.
Okay, well, is Twitter being fucking taken seriously?
The people that are on Twitter take themselves
Can
seriously.
we rewind to Twitter? You posted some fucked up shit on the Libel to Bible account that was like as bad as whatever I got like suspended for.
What did I post?
I don't know. You said something about a penis or something. You
To
said
who?
something.
What did I say it
I don't
to?
remember. And I wrote back to you. I'm like, and I got fucking suspended, and you were like, Twitter's under new ownership. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So did you get suspended?
No.
All right. I don't remember what you said, but it was just as bad as anything I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably just some right winger, right?
I don't know what the fuck it was. It was just I'm sure
Some
it was.
biblical bullshit.
Yeah. So now, if it's time to let the slave or the indentured servant go, and they go, you know what? I'm feeling good by you. I'm feeling good with you. I don't mind spending time with you. I'll stay here. I love you, man.
You don't want to do that.
No, because they put your head up against the fucking door frame. They take an awl and a hammer. Well, they didn't say a hammer, and they thrust it through your fucking earlobe.
Yeah.
And now you're the slave forever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this.
Say it.
This seems suspect.
Why?
Because what's going to happen is, first of all, why are you marking the guy? The guy's staying with you willingly.
Well, that's like a sign that like he was your slave and now like he belongs to you. Like he's
still your slave.
I don't know.
And I'm saying, what prevents me from Rusty? You're my best slave I got. In 5 days, you're about to leave. What's to stop me from getting a couple of my goons, slamming you up against the wall, and fucking putting a hole in your earlobe? And now, if you try and leave, no. Look, you said you loved me. Look, everybody, he's got the mark.
I mean, I guess nothing, but that's like saying like, what's to stop me from like not paying when I eat like at a restaurant? Like nothing's to stop you other than like your sense of decency.
Well, this is a little fucking different.
Why?
Why do you have to mark me? I just said I'll stay with you willingly. Why do you have to forget marking me? You like torture me almost. You're driving a fucking awl through my fucking skin.
I mean,
no, this is suspect. This is
do
a
you
fucking
think like
suspect
this
rule.
is literal, like the whole all thing?
Hold on. But if he says to you, I will not go out from you because he loves you and your household since he is well off with you, then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his earlobe into the door and he shall be your slave forever. Yeah, this is fucking literal, dude.
Okay.
It's pretty graphic.
I mean, all right. All right. Why does he have to be up against the door? What if there's no door?
Well, you'll find something sturdy to fucking ram that thing through. Because you hit him with an awl, you're just going to push his head away.
Right.
You know, yeah. This is bullshit. This is suspect. This is suspect fucking rule.
It's sus,
yeah, it's sus. Fucking young guy.
What, you don't like it? You
Right.
don't like sus?
The first, I don't know. Sounds like puss. I don't like it.
Yeah.
All right. Then it goes the firstborn of livestock, Deuteronomy 19. Verse 21. Well, he's talking about the first, you had to fucking
Deuteronomy 15, verse 19.
Thank you. I'm not good at this. It's written stupid. Well, it's so arbitrary, these numbers.
So we're still on Deuteronomy 15. That's chapter 15.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting past 15 tonight.
Verse 19.
Yeah. So every firstling male born of your herd and flock you shall consecrate to the
Your
Lord
herd?
your God. You shall not do work. Yo, why you interrupting me, man?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you post the...
Wait, now you're actually going to interrupt me. Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, did I
You're
post
right.
what?
Nah, yeah, it doesn't matter.
The episode for today?
The firstborn, the patron one.
Yeah, of course I did, man. Come on top of shit.
I ain't checked that one.
You really should check me.
I know.
Every firstling male born of your herd and flock, you shall consecrate
Your
to
herd?
the Lord God. You shall not do work with your firstling. Blah, blah, blah. You shall eat it. You shall eat
Blah,
it.
blah, blah. He wants like the firstborn animals
Right.
unless they're defective.
But if it has any defect, and then he kind of changed the words from the last time.
Go ahead.
He says, but if it has any defect, any serious defect.
No, now it's serious defect.
Because what's happening is these Israelites were like, this fucking sheep has got a defect, but it's only on the ear. This is some good eating right here. This is for the family.
You just cut that shit off, right? Like cut around
Right.
the ear, right?
So he's like, no. No, you leave it because it's got a defect, so you don't give it to Yahweh. But meanwhile, this sheep is fine. It's got a fucked up ear. Nobody eats the fucking ear anyway. So Yahweh's like, no, I know you're fucking game at this point. No, it's got to like be missing a leg or some shit.
Oh, I see.
It's a way to fucking, because they were scamming.
Right.
They were fucking keeping like good shit for themselves.
Right. Well, that's from Yahweh's perspective, they were scamming.
Yeah.
Right. From a human perspective, they were like,
Scamming.
yo, like, this fucking guy is a psychopath, and, yeah.
And regardless whether it's clean or not, you got to pour the blood out. Got to pour it out, man.
Yeah. So that got us through Deuteronomy 15.
Yeah.
Thank God for anti-Semitism.
You want to do more? Because
I mean, the Deuteronomy 16 is just the Passover, right? Like
Yeah, but
he
I got
talks
some
about
notes,
like what
yeah.
really?
You want to speed through it?
Sure. Let's speed through Deuteronomy 16
Go.
because it's basically going over the Passover again.
Yeah. But I have new notes on it, though. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. Deuteronomy 16. Observe the month of Abib. Abib means the new moon, apparently, loosely translated.
Okay.
By keeping the Passover to the Lord your
But
God.
isn't there a new moon every month?
Right, that's what I'm about to get to. For in the month of Abib, the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know astronomy, the new moon means there is no moon to be seen. It's the darkest of the dark nights. So Yahweh brought them out of Egypt on the darkest of the dark nights. Some might think a human could have came up with this fucking plan. Let's leave on the darkest night so nobody sees us jetting out into the woods. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking right there, more evidence. Yahweh didn't facilitate this. Mm-hmm. This is still Moses covering up that fucking murdered Egyptian, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, fast forwarding. Mm-hmm. You must not eat it with anything leavened, blah, blah, blah. The bread of affliction? Was that a new term? I did not hear that before.
Don't care.
Okay. So 7 days, no leaven, blah, 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 blah. It should not be seen anywhere, blah, 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 blah. Because you're eating in his fucking tabernacle and he doesn't want leaven in the poop. It does not mix well in the fuel tank. Yeah. All right.
Festival of Weeks.
Okay, the Festival of Weeks. You shall count 7 weeks. Begin to count the 7 weeks from the time the sickle is first put to the standing grain. And my note here is, can Yahweh not just introduce the fucking calendar to these morons? Like, are they beyond the concept of, like, do they have a calendar at this time?
Probably not.
Well, introduce a fucking calendar instead of being cryptic with all this weird shit.
Nobody has a calendar.
Well, isn't this time to introduce it? Because he's very specific about weeks and months and days and how many fucking parsecs and fucking all this shit from a certain point. Give them a fucking calendar so they can mark it off. This can't be a new concept at this point.
So,
who had the sundial? Who made the sundial?
So here's the thing.
Who made the sundial?
So here's, I don't know.
Yeah.
The Greeks.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Yeah. What year?
What?
What year was the sundial?
I don't know.
made?
The Phoenicians.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that what's going on is these are the instructions that were then interpreted by like the Levites or whatever. And then so people like you didn't have to worry about like what's the date. You were told
what the fuck is a person like me?
Just a person.
Oh, just a person.
Yeah, just a person.
As opposed to what? A person like you?
Yes.
More than a person?
Yes. As opposed to like
it's hard to have an argument when you like you don't even contradict what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just yes.
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
fine.
When you hit the nail on the head every time you open your mouth, I mean, there's not a lot for me to say.
You don't think when Yahweh or Moses is standing up there and go, listen, on the 7th week, like a murmur doesn't go through the crowd, and Moses doesn't look over at Yahweh and go, these fucking people don't know what weeks are, man.
When you're being given like an orientation, right? You're given the broad like outlines. Like the details are then followed up when you split up into groups, you know? Like the engineers will go here and the developers will go there. And so this is just what we're reading in the Bible is just a general like outline. And then like everything will be like filtered down to the people. The details will be distributed to them.
Give the people a fucking little bit of an education. And
the Levites will determine what day the sickle struck the fucking pea pod or whatever.
Yeah. Then you shall keep the festival of weeks to the Lord of your God, contributing a free will offering in proportion to the blessing that you ever see. Basically, it's a tax, a percentage of your fucking your earnings, and like a free will offering.
It's also a way to keep them humble and a way for them to remember, like you might be rich and you might have like all this land, but don't fucking forget about fucking Yahweh that He can kill you at any time.
Yeah. So a free will offering.
A free will offering?
Yeah, because they're doing everything free will. Free will.
Well, if you have to tell someone that they have to
That's
do
the point
a free
I'm
will
saying.
offering,
These
right.
people are so fucking. These people are gaslighted.
Yeah.
That they think, oh, I'm giving this as a free will offering. You know, because I might die if I don't.
Right.
All right.
I'm still trying to. Where's the part where it says, you know, you can't press buttons on an elevator on Friday night? Like, where's that fucking part?
Yeah, I don't know. Festival of Booths reviewed. I did notice the titles, they say reviewed, so at least they're admitting this is a review.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to fast forward to Deuteronomy, what is this, 16? Verse 16. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God at the place He will choose, at the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of weeks, and the festival of booths. So, if it's 3 times a year, I'm guesstimating once every 4 months, if it's spaced out evenly. Mm-hmm. Is it any fucking coincidence that there's 3 credit reporting agencies? and you can only request a report from them once a year, and if you space it out every 4 months.
Yeah.
So when you go to these festivals, you should ask for like your Experian, your TransUnion, or your Equifax.
That is the fucking goofiest fucking connection I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So they shall not appear empty-handed either, by the way.
No, they should have their request for their fucking credit report. All right.
Well, it's interesting because that gets us to municipal judges and officers where, sometimes if your credit's not good, you might have to see a judge and an officer.
And they must not distort justice.
Was it really a thing like debtor's prison? Like if you were in debt, they would throw you like in prison? That was like a thing? Debtor's prison?
I don't know if a debtor's prison was a thing, but I think if I look at the American justice system, if you have no money, you go to prison or at least jail until your trial because you can't make bail.
Well, not in you. Just smack the mic right into my goddamn fucking face.
That's pretty much the collective psionic power of our listeners wishing that on you.
By the way, I didn't even notice. Have I been using like?
You
today?
have.
Goddamn fuck.
Not as bad as you might think, but yeah, maybe it is as bad as you think. I don't know. When I edit this, I'll let you know.
All right.
You must not distort justice. You must not show partiality, and you must not accept a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. Again, the fact that
unless you murdered someone and there was a misunderstanding, you can run away and hang out in the city. Here's the point. It seems like a lot of the shit that they're being told, it's like, you know what? Like they're being taught to be good people. But then, like a lot of the shit that they're being told to be shitty people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't like it. The fact that you have to, and what's funny is, here we are 6,000 years later, and justice is constantly distorted. I mean, I don't know for myself. People are constantly accepting bribes. I've seen it. And yeah, it's like, and they all got a cross around their neck, these fucking people that are accepting these bags of money. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, this is only part of the Torah. It's not like,
Oh, you're right. This shouldn't apply to... You're right.
It should apply to them, I guess, because Jesus Christ was Jewish. Jesus Christ never renounced his Judaism. Jesus Christ never said, I am no longer a Jew because... No, Jesus Christ lived his life as a Jew. He died as a Jew.
Stop. I don't want to hear nothing about things that don't exist yet.
Okay.
Forbidden forms of worship. You shall not plant any tree as a sacred pole beside the altar. Nor shall you set up a stone pillar, things that the Lord your God hates. Well, you can't put anything next to the altar, because that's where the fucking fuel tank access is. Right. So can you plant a tree as a sacred pole like out in the woods?
So it's interesting because you can't plant a tree, right? So like a Christmas tree I can't put, or a sacred pole like the Festivus pole. So you can't celebrate Festivus, you can't celebrate Christmas.
And Christmas was a pagan holiday that was usurped by Christianity to make it more palatable to the people they were trying to convert.
Correct.
And yeah, didn't he go don't be like a fucking druid. Burn down those fucking trees that they're fucking worshiping around, right? When they fucking moved in?
Yes.
So what the fuck is a Christmas tree about? Maybe it'll be revealed later. I'm sure it'll be revealed later.
Well, that was a tradition started by Martin Luther. Yes.
He had a dream about that?
Not King Jr., Martin Luther.
I'm going to say this, and you're going to say, well, because you're an idiot. I hated when the name Martin Luther was brought up, because I always went to that fucking hotel. I saw him I saw the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in my head. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, that's not Martin Luther? It always confused me as a kid.
It doesn't confuse you now, though. You understand that.
I don't know who the fuck Martin Luther is at all. I don't give a fuck who he is.
He started Protestantism.
Oh, wait. You know who else confused me? George Washington and George Washington Carver? Who the fuck was that?
George Washington Carver was a farmer.
He wasn't the first president? You see?
No, that you know. Yeah. But Martin Luther, you don't know who Martin Luther is?
He started Lutheranism, no?
Well, no, he started Protestantism. He didn't call it Protestantism. He didn't call it Lutheranism. But he was the guy that told the church, there was only one church, it was the Catholic Church. He was a monk, and he nailed 99, they were called theses, to like the door of the church saying like, yo, it's bullshit that like your mass is in Latin. No one fucking speaks Latin. Why don't you talk to the people in a language they fucking understand? What's up with fucking these like 10% fucking tithes that you're constantly collecting? Where the fuck is that? So he called out like the church on all their like bullshit, you know? And so like people who fucking followed him became known as like Lutherans, and that became Protestantism, protest.
Right.
And then like, so basically you have Catholicism and everything else is Protestantism.
So when he posted things on the doorway, did he come back and like people posted shit underneath it, like a response?
That's pretty funny. Oh no, it was more like someone like put up like a concert poster over it, like this is like last week's performance. This week is like, you know.
And this is why they had to write post no bills.
Right.
I got to tell you, one chapter, that's all we got tonight. That's all I'm getting out of it.
So it was perfect because it coincided with like the invention of the printing press, you know. So that was like why he was like all that shit was like.
You talking about Martin Luther?
Yeah, he existed like right around that time where like, you know, the printing press had just been like invented and like the Bible was being distributed. So like when he was like, yo, why is all this in fucking Latin? Protestantism made it. Do you know it wasn't until the 1960s that Catholic churches were all in Latin. Like you would go to Catholic church and the mass would be in Latin until the 1960s when they had like some big council and like the Pope was like, let's start reading it in like the language that people like speak in that country. And like everybody was like, this guy's a communist. You know what I mean? It was like one of those things.
But now that it was like in English and like people would be like generations into the Catholic Church and now like, this is what we've been fucking listening to this whole time. And now we're stuck in it. We can't get out of this fucking quicksand.
Why do you think like the church numbers have been declining and declining?
So as soon as you put light on what the fuck is going on, people are like, what?
On Twitter, there's constantly like theists who are like, oh, why don't you go read the Bible? And I'm like, I did. That's why I'm an atheist. You know what I mean? It's like, that's everyone's response. Like, yeah. I was a believer until I read the Bible.
Yeah. You want to continue this on the Patreon conversation?
You want to say goodbye to these fuck faces?
Yeah, goodbye, man. Join us in the
fuck
Patreon,
them.
man.
Fuck them.
Bye.
Fuck them.